Yeah, good evening, everybody. Uh, Kerala has seen a very devastating flood, which struck the state, I think, on 16th of this month. So, I must express my sympathies with everybody, anyone and everyone who may have suffered some loss, some damage, even some lives have been lost on account of this flood. In fact, this flood is a very timely warning to all the people, whether they are politicians, whether they are bureaucrats in state government or in railway board. It is a warning to everybody that if you do not plan your projects, a project like a railway line, which is running the entire length of the state from Trivandrum to Kasargod, about 530 kilometers if you take straight line distance. It will be crossing a very large number of rivers and streams. I think 50 plus major waterways will be crossed by this railway line. This railway line will pass through a very unique terrain, which we call in Kerala as the mid highlands. It is the portion between the Western Ghats and the coastal belt. This is where you have Kottayam, Chenganur, and uh, further north, Thrissur. All these areas, they fall in this region. This region has very serious problem of floods because when water is coming down from the Western Ghats, it has a very short distance to travel to the Arabian Sea. So water is flowing very rapidly. And because of extensive erosion in the Western Ghats, the Kerala ground is made up of soft soils, mostly clay and silt. I mean, this is what you will find in paddy fields, in the backwaters, in the wetlands. And wherever you have slopes, hilly terrain, you have it all along this state. The slopes are quite unstable. We hear of lot of landslides. Whenever there are floods, they are accompanied by a large number of of landslides. So in such a terrain, which is having soft ground, which is prone to floods, which has got lot of waterways, rivers rapidly flowing, which even change their course. So for such a terrain, you need to carry out proper survey. Anybody who has background of engineering or science would know that alignment survey is the most important thing in planning a railway line, because alignment decides where your line will go, what kind of terrain it will encounter, how many bridges will be required, how many tunnels may be required, and if you are going to make it on embankment, what is going to be the height of embankments? If you are going to make it on viaduct, what is going to be the height of the viaducts? And on these factors will depend on the cost of the line and technical feasibility of construction of the line. I have been speaking in webinars since start of July this year. And everywhere I have been emphasizing this point, that this project has been mishandled. I will be straightforward. I'm not going to pull any punches. I will be straightforward because at stake is 1 lakh crore of public money. I mean, even Niti Aayog has said it will cost about 1,25,000 crore. Whatever I mean, estimates may vary, but I am quite sure that it will cost more than 1 lakh crore. So that's a huge lot of public money to be spent on this line, which is just 530 kilometer long. In fact, you can make a normal railway line. I mean, your existing line, which is there, it carries trains at about 100 kilometer per hour maximum speed. Average is about 45 kilometer per hour. So you cover the distance from Thiruvananthapuram to Kasaragod in about 9 to 11 hours. The fastest Rajdhani train takes about 9.5 hours. The slower express trains, they may take 11 hours. You can make a line for 160 kmph, which will cover this distance in just about 5 hours, So that's a massive reduction in the cost of the line. From more than 1 lakh crore, you come down to 25,000 crores, and you will cover the distance from Thiruvananthapuram to Kasaragod in just 5 hours, So the question arises, what is the point of making this semi-high speed line, which will cover the distance in just 1 hour less, which is 4 hours? But it will cost 4 times more. Against 25,000 crores, it is going to cost 1 lakh crore. What is the point of building such a line? Now there is one more option. That other option is to upgrade the existing line. Now the existing line can be upgraded. The main problem is of sharp curves. There are a lot of, all those people who have traveled by train, they will find, just like highways, the railway line also has. It is because of the terrain. The railway line has a lot of curves, and speed restrictions. Speed is less because of these curves. So first of all, you have to ease the curves, make them milder. Okay. Then you have to strengthen the ground, because as I said, soils are soft here. So you have to strengthen the embankments. Maybe you have to make remove embankments and in that place make viaduct. So you can bring about, and then you can improve signaling, provide automatic signaling. You can then, by spending just about 15,000 crore rupees, you can reduce the travel time to about 6 hours. So you have got 3 options, 4 hours, 5 hours, and 6 hours journey time. For 6 hours, you have to spend about 15,000 crores. For 5 hours, you have to spend about 25,000 crores. For 4 hours, you have to spend about more than 1 lakh crore. So this option of making a new semi-high speed line at more than 1 lakh crore is not justified unless you can reduce the cost, you can improve ridership, because viability of a railway line depends on how many people will travel by that train. Okay. In the present plan, the lowest fare is just little less than AC 2 tier. So not many people are going to travel by this train. I think not more than, rough estimate is that not more than 5% of the population of Kerala can afford to travel by this new line. So this line, I think many people have pointed out this thing. I am giving you facts and figures that this line will be of use to only 5% of the population of Kerala. 95% of the people will not be able to afford this thing. They would continue to travel by the existing trains by paying less than half the fare, or they will travel by buses, or those who travel in groups, they may prefer to travel by their car or by taxi. But if you make this line on broad gauge, here gauge is the most important thing. If you make this line on broad gauge, you can reduce the cost drastically. Because I worked on this project in the early stages for about 4 months. And in fact, I was mm, the main person responsible for making the first feasibility report. So my estimate is that it will a line on broad gauge will cost about 50,000 crores. Okay, against more than 1 lakh crore, it will cost about 50,000 crores. And ridership will be much higher, 2 to 3 times of the ridership on the present line. Now, why will it be so? Why will the cost be less? And why will the ridership be so high? That needs to be explained. Now, let's take the aspect of cost. Standard gauge is about 17% narrower than broad gauge. Gauge, as you would be knowing, is the space between the left and the right rail of the track. Okay. And this also corresponds to the distance between the wheels on an axle. So standard gauge is narrower by about 17%. So in a situation like Kerala, where you have got soft soil, the gauge becomes very important. Whether it is standard gauge or broad gauge, the size of the coaches, the length of the trains, the weight of the trains is the same. The only thing different is the gauge. So if you have a narrow gauge, then the load has to be transferred over a smaller area. Okay. So this factor results in a higher cost because your embankment, your viaducts, your bridges have to be much stronger because load has to be distributed over a smaller area. So gauge affects the cost in this one way. Now, if you are making the line on standard gauge, then broad gauge trains cannot enter on this line, and the high-speed trains cannot enter because of difference of gauge. There is no interoperability. There is no interchange of trains is possible. So it has to be a separate standalone line. So one of the most important factors for viability of a intercity train like this is that the stations should be in the city center. If you have stations far away, like airports, if you have them far away from the city, then people are will not be so, this will be a disincentive. People will not be inclined to travel for a distance of say 100 kilometer or 200 or 300 kilometer, because most of the journeys in Kerala, as the survey report has also shown, are in the range of 50 to 250 kilometers. So say if I have to go from say Kollam to Thiruvananthapuram, okay, that's a distance of about, I think, 140 kilometers about. At Kollam, the station is about 10 kilometers away from the main city. Okay. At Ernakulam, the station is about 15 kilometers away from the main city center, which is your MG Road. So you have to spend about, in the peak hours, you have to spend about half an hour at this end and a little over half an hour at that end. You have to spend your money to go to the railway station and from railway station to your destination. So you have to spend extra time, you have to spend extra money, and then you have to take all the hassle of changing, going by city bus or by taxi to the air station and then from station to your destination. So, I mean, this is not my opinion. There are hundreds of studies have been done all over the world. And it is recognized that the most important factor is for viability of a high-speed line or a semi-high-speed line, which is meant for daytime intercity travel, because this line is for daytime intercity travel only. If you have to go overnight, you will prefer sleeper in a normal train. So this is an internationally accepted factor that your station should be in the city center. So if you are going to make a line on a standard gauge, how will you take your line to the city center, which is so thickly populated? I mean, you will have to take it like a metro on elevated elevated track. So to cross Ernakulam, you may have an elevated track of about 20 to 30 kilometers. Same at other places like Kolam or at Thrissur or at Kozhikode. So the cost of construction goes up because you have to take the line to the city center either through tunnel or through elevated corridor. So this is the second factor, which these are the two basically main factors which result in very high cost of construction. In fact, if you are aware, Mumbai-Ahmedabad bullet train line, they have taken a station out. There are 5 main stations on that line. Let's start with Ahmedabad, then Vadodara, then Surat, then Thane, and then Mumbai proper, which in this case will be somewhere near Kurla. So out of these 5 places, they have taken the line through the city center at 4 main cities. Out of 5 main cities, at 4 cities, they have taken the line to the city center. Only at Surat, they are taking the line from outside. Because taking the line through Surat would have been very, very costly. So they decided to take it outside. So I mean, this example of Mumbai-Ahmedabad is there. This is overall world experience that you have to take the line through the city center. Now here, what they have done is that they have this plan of real estate development. They want to build smart cities and carry out a lot of real estate development. So they have taken the line to the outskirts in the suburbs where they have made some plans that land is available or land is cheap. Say beyond Kakkanad, somewhere between airport and Kakkanad, they are planning this station at Ernakulam. Then at Kolam also they are planning a station far away. At Kottayam also they are planning a station far away. So they expect that in the suburbs, in the outskirts, they can purchase land and carry out real estate development. Now, as I will tell you later on, that this has been done in a very haphazard and lopsided and improper manner. That's not the way to do plan a railway line, that you take the railway line to the outside of the city just for the sake of real estate development. Now, why would you do that? Why would you take your line to the outskirts? You can take it to the outskirts only under one condition, that your earning from real estate development will make up for the reduction in ridership. Because you are taking the station away from the main city, ridership will fall. So earnings will fall, the receipts will fall. So through real estate development, you should be able to recoup that loss. Now, no such study has been done here. They have simply said that we will take line here at Kolam, here at Kottayam, here at Ernakulam, here at Kochi Valley near Thiruvananthapuram, but without any plan. They did not have any plan at all. In fact, I had detailed discussions with even Transport Secretary of State. We had 3 meetings with him also. So it was then agreed, that we first make a alignment without consideration of real estate development. And then we see what is the ridership, what is the cost of construction, whether the line will be viable, whether the line will be technically feasible. While we do all this, in parallel, you can carry out a separate study about real estate development. In that, you will have to take experts from the concerned fields, like architects, like town planners, because we engineers are not experts in that kind of thing. So you will have to engage experts who will prepare a plan of real estate development. Out of 11 stations, which are the places where real estate development can be carried out? What is the likely profit from the real estate development? Whether that profit will make good the loss of ridership. So unless you do that, you are going to land in trouble. And this is what is the one of the main problems with this current plan is that they have in their mind that we will carry out real estate development. But if you ask them what is going to be your earnings, what is going to be the loss of ridership, they can't give you an answer because they have not done any study like this. Even though when I was there, it was decided that it will be done in such a manner. But after I left, they changed everything. So this comes to the aspect of real estate development, location of station and gauge. Now there is one more factor here, which has colored everything. That is getting soft loans from JICA or maybe some other agencies like ADB or World Bank. Because these multilateral agencies, they are there basically, if you read their document, they are basically there. They participate in developing countries like India to promote infrastructure development. And for that, they give you sort of as a charity, sort of a low interest loan, which you can pay over 30 years or 40 years. But it comes attached with many conditions. Number one condition, which we have seen in Mumbai, Ahmedabad also is, everywhere it is so, they will put a condition that say 40% or 50% of all the equipment, trains and locomotives and other things, signaling, will be procured from companies belonging to Japan. In case JICA is giving you loan, then they will say so much contract should go to our companies. Then they will similarly say that so many contracts for construction of the line should go to our companies, which are primarily held by the Japanese. So all these conditions, you have to see what is the cost of these conditions. Now, number two factor is also this, that this loan will be in foreign currency, yen. Now, we all know that dollar
okay, no problem.
Yeah. So whether it is in dollar or it is in yen, the currency appreciates. Like experts have said that yen appreciates by 6 to 8% annually. I mean, this is the trend of last 10 to 20 years. So you are going to pay that interest, You are paying that interest. So it is not a interest-free loan. So if somebody is going to give you a loan and put all these conditions that it should be on standard gauge, that so many contracts will go to our companies and all these things, then you have to make a proper assessment, an objective assessment, whether it is worth going for that kind of loan. Because you see, this technology for 200 kmph is available all over the world competitively. So you don't have to go to any particular country or any particular company for this. You just invite tenders in India and they will supply you trains for 200 kmph. Okay, trains, train sets, locomotives, they will supply you. They will convert it to broad gauge and supply it to you. And then you can, because we have got, in India, we have got our own manufacturing plants. We can manufacture it in country itself. So it will be much cheaper. Transfer of technology will be much more beneficial. And the entire Indian Railway will benefit from this. So all these things should have been seen. So here what should have happened is that number one, you should have examined comparison of standard gauge versus broad
gauge. Yeah.
Okay, whether the line should be on standard gauge or it should be on broad gauge. Standard gauge has many disadvantages because it is different from the gauge of the Indian railway network, including your existing lines in Kerala. They are all on broad gauge. So you have to make a comparative study of this and then take a conscious decision. Okay, we will go for standard gauge for this and this reason. Otherwise, there is no reason why you should not build the line on broad gauge, which is same as the gauge of the whole Indian Railway, which results in reduced cost of construction, which results in higher ridership. So why should you not make the line on broad gauge? Now, let me add a few more things about the advantages of building the line on broad gauge. Now, if you make this line on standard gauge, then two things will happen. Number one is your existing trains, I mean, all these mail express trains which are running on the existing line, they cannot switch over to the new line. Okay. Then your semi-high speed trains, they cannot go to the nearby places. They will be confined within that line only. A lot of people go from Kerala to nearby places like Coimbatore, Kanyakumari, Madurai, Mysore, Mangalore, even Goa. People go to all these places, but your train will not be able to go there, because of difference in gauge. So existing trains cannot come on the new line, and your high-speed trains cannot go on the Indian railway network to the nearby places. So that's a very big disadvantage. Because these lines, they have very high capacity. They can run about 200 to 250 pairs of trains, 250 trains in one direction, 250 trains in another direction. So they have capacity to carry about 4 lakh to 5 lakh passengers per day. So if you are making a railway line by spending 1 lakh crore of rupees, then you should be able to carry at least 50% of the line capacity within 3 to 5 years of the opening of the line. So, you should be able to have 2 lakh to 3 lakh passengers within 2 to 3 years of the opening of the line. And this I will come to it later on, that how this traffic estimate is also highly exaggerated. So let's come to this main point is that for gauge, there should have been a proper study, a comparative study of advantages and disadvantages, but that has not been done. Before that, I have said, similarly, a comparative study should have been done for real estate development or not real estate development. Why carry out real estate development? Why carry your line to the outskirts for the sake of carrying out real estate development? And why take foreign loan? All these issues must have been examined properly. Otherwise, what will happen is that one by one, you will realize that cost is going up. Once the project is sanctioned, you will find cost is going up. You will find your traffic estimates are low. So, I mean, this is a very improper way of making a plan for a railway line which is going to consume 1 lakh crore rupees of public money. I have said it earlier also, and I will be forthright, that I mean, in the history of Indian Railway, at least of last 50 years, no railway project has been handled with so much of incompetence and unprofessionalism as this project. Incompetence and unprofessionalism. Because if you are going to handle such a major project, you are supposed to be competent. You are supposed to know everything, What is to be done to make a proper plan? You should know. You cannot pretend to be ignorant, okay? You have to know all these things. Now, I will give you let's look at how this project began. In 2018, middle of 2018, so that is about, we are in 21, so about 3 years ago, KRDCL, which is handling the project, they submitted a proposal to Railway Board. Okay, that was called Preliminary Feasibility Report. in which they said that because KRDCL is a joint venture between Kerala State and Railway Board, the idea is that if a state feels that this project is very important for their state, for the people of their state, then they will bear some cost of the project. Whatever it is, 20%, 30%, 40%, they will share the cost. So that project will be taken up on priority. So Kerala state government submitted a proposal to Railway Board in June 2018. This proposal was for a line on broad gauge, which will be integrated with the existing line. So the original proposal was for building this line on broad gauge to be integrated with the existing line for full interchange, and trains going from this line to the network and trains from the network coming on this line. So full in operability. Railway Board approved the proposal. Okay. But Railway Board said ki your report is not proper, so you prepare a proper report as per the Indian Railway rules. Okay, Indian Railway has prescribed certain rules, certain procedures for making proposals. This is when I was engaged by their consultant. Their consultant is a French company. They say it's a Paris-based company, but basically it's an Indian company only. So this company engaged me that you please help us in. They had a team here. They had got a team of about 20 experts in Trivandrum. So they said, okay, can you help us in preparing the preliminary feasibility report? I said, okay, I can do that. I'll be not available for a long time. So 3 to 4 months is okay. I will do it. So under my guidance, this new preliminary feasibility report was prepared. Okay. Which was to be as per the rules and regulations of this thing. So in this feasibility report, which was prepared under my charge, we made following 4 recommendations. Okay. I mean, this is a very important report, and I think the government should call for this report, because this report has been suppressed by people. I mean, this report is being, I will see what has happened to this report. First recommendation was that you should build this line on broad gauge to be integrated with the existing railway network, because it will reduce cost, it will reduce requirement of land, and it will result in higher ridership. It said stations should be in the city center, not in the outskirts. Decision on real estate development should be taken later after feasibility and viability of a semi-high-speed line is established. This was number 3 recommendation. As I told you, we had discussion even with Transport Secretary, and we all agreed that first you make an alignment purely as a railway line, examine its feasibility and everything, and then only after you have done sufficient study of real estate development, then you can alter this plan and add it that to this. And the 4th recommendation was that for real estate development, a detailed feasibility study should be carried out to identify possible locations, assess earnings from the real estate development, and means of connecting the new cities to the new line. Okay, so this report contained these 4 major recommendations. Now, after I left, the consultant also took a U-turn. They forgot about all these recommendations. Okay, and then they prepared a new final feasibility report. Okay, that was the preliminary feasibility report. They prepared a final feasibility report in just 40 days. A feasibility report normally takes 1 to 2 years. They prepared it in 40 days. How did they prepare it? They did not carry out any ground survey. No topographic survey, no geological survey, no geotechnical survey, no hydrological survey to determine the effect of floods, and no traffic survey. They did not carry out any survey. I mean, mark my words, no surveys were carried out. They just took Google Earth data, raw data of Google Earth, which is not permitted by railway for making alignments for railway lines, definitely not for making feasibility studies. And they just, I mean, MD of KRDCL said, you have station here, station here, station here, because I want to carry out real estate development. So they prepared an alignment for real estate development of these stations. But this is not recorded in the report. Why? You should have recorded in this report that we have decided the station location considering real estate development. And so much earnings we expect from real estate development. Nothing is recorded in the report. So anybody who will read the report will say, okay, this is the best alignment. That is why they have given the best alignment. No, this is not the best alignment. This is the alignment for real estate development. Why is this not mentioned in the report? This is a matter which should be looked by the government, the Kerala government, and also by Railway Board. Why all these irregularities occurred? That no survey was carried out, no ground survey was carried out, and you decided the station locations for real estate development without mentioning what is going to be the implication, what kind of earnings you are expecting from real estate development, what is the fall in ridership, and how will you compensate for that. Nothing was mentioned in this thing. And surprise, Railway Board gives in principle approval on this report. On this report, which I have no hesitation in saying, I can have an argument with anybody in Railway Board or KRDCL or anybody. In 50 years of Indian railway history, no alignment, no feasibility report has been prepared in such an unprofessional and incompetent manner as this report. How Railway Board has given approval, in principle approval, because in principle approval is basically an approval. Okay, because you can even spend 100 crore rupees on pre-construction activities like acquisition of land also, building offices, building roads, building water supply systems, all these things, you can do all these things. So it is basically an approval. How has Railway Board given approval? First of all, how has the state government approved it? Why did the state government submitted this flawed report to Railway Board for giving in principle approval? And why Railway Board gave this approval? So all these players, they have to answer, they have to do some introspection. They have to realize the mistakes they have made, They must accept their mistakes. Otherwise, the state of Kerala is going to suffer very badly. People of Kerala are going to suffer very, very, very badly because now let's come to the flood situation. Now, how this line will affect the flood situation in Kerala. Now, I was telling you that in 2018, a proposal was sent, to Railway Board. In that proposal, it was said that it will be an elevated corridor. End to end, it will be elevated. It will be on viaduct. Viaduct is like you have metro lines, viaduct, bridges, on ground. A bridge which is on ground is called a viaduct. When it is crossing a river, it is called a bridge. When it is on land, it is called viaduct. So this proposal was for a line entirely on viaduct from one end to the other end. Now that makes sense. Because when you have viaduct, then you don't have to make embankments. You don't have to fill up the wetlands, the backwaters, paddy fields to make embankment. You don't have to cut slopes to make cuttings. So this was a good idea. That you make a elevated corridor. But because it was on a standard gauge, it did not work, And because they wanted to take it to the outside of the city, it did not work. So from elevated, 100% elevated, now the situation is that 80% of the line will be on ground, on embankments or cuttings. Now these, as we know in Kerala, there is a tremendous urban sprawl. In Kerala, we don't have big cities, very big cities and small towns. No. Kerala has hundreds and hundreds of cities and towns where people live. That is because of topography. Wherever ground is high, there are townships, there are cities. So the population is scattered. And if you make a railway line, you will have to give about 400 crossings. At about 400 places, you will have to give level crossings or under bridges for roads for the people, because people are living on this side and this side. So how will you connect them? So this embankment will have to be high because you have to provide passage underneath. And you know, this is flood prone area. Water can, you have to assess what is the HFL. So their data also shows, which is pointed out by, in fact, Niti Aayog also, their embankment will be minimum 4 meters and at places up to 10-meter high. Now 10-meter high is like a 3-story high building. If you are going to have such high viaducts, first thing is how much material will be required, how much stones and sand and other materials will be required. Now this will, you know, there is a problem of sand mining, illegal mining and illegal quarrying of stones and all that. And it is going to have a huge impact on the environment also, because the line is being made on embankments and cuttings. By cutting the slopes, this line is going to be made. If this line were going to be made on viaduct, all these problems would not be there. So in fact, in the preliminary report, where I had recommended that it should be on broad gauge, we had estimated that about 50 to 60% of the line will be on viaduct, will be elevated. It will be outside the mid-highland region. It will be roughly 2 to 10 kilometers from the sea coast. It will not be very near to the sea coast because we know there is erosion there and a lot of fishermen and other people also live. So we had proposed that this line will be from 2 to 10 kilometers from the sea coast, where the ground is flat, generally flat, not very flat also. There are backwaters in between also, but generally it is flat. You don't have the problem of mid-highlands. And about 50 to 60% line will be elevated. And all existing stations will be used because existing stations are on high ground. So roughly 20%, 30% of the railway line will be anyway on the high ground, and only about 20% of the line will have problem of low-lying areas. And there you will have to prepare that portion will be covered in this viaducts. But because they wanted to make it on a standard gauge, they wanted to go for real estate development, they have taken the line into the flood-prone mid-highland region, and they have landed up in all these problems of infeasible and unworkable alignment, very high cost of construction. Their estimate is 65,000 crore. Niti Aayog has said 1,27,000 crore. Anyway, it is not going to be less than 1 lakh crore rupees. Ridership will be very severely compromised. So what we see here is a very big failure of planning. And the report being prepared in an incompetent and unprofessional manner. Not carrying out any comparative studies. Why should you go for a standard gauge? Why should you go for this real estate development? Why should you go for loan from JICA or World Bank? All these issues are very fundamental issues which have very long-term impact. All these issues should have been examined. And most important is, how come you submitted the feasibility report without any surveys, without any ground surveys, which is a complete violation of the engineering code of Indian Railways. So there are so many serious problems with this plan. And I am seeing some ray of hope, because recently there was a news item which says that as we have seen, Railway Board is pulling back from this project. Okay, about about 3 months back, they said ki we will not bear any losses. Now they are saying that all the loan will have to be repaid by the state government. Now I will ask this question: but this is a railway line. Okay, why should people of Kerala have to pay 100% for a railway line? Why is the Ministry of Railway there? Why is the central budget there? Why should people of Kerala have to pay full cost for this railway line? You make it on standard gauge. You run all long distance trains also on this line, and then okay. I mean, in my opinion is that Kerala state government should not be asked to pay more than 20%. For example, Konkan Railway. Konkan Railway, the cost was shared between 4 states and Railway Board. Okay, all the states like this Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Goa. These 3 states, they all share, and then Railway Board share. Okay, but in this case, now people of Kerala are being asked to pay 100% of the cost of the line. Okay, and now as I have said, why is Railway Board not exercising technical control on this project? Why has Railway Board given in principle approval on the basis of a feasibility report, which is a complete violation of your own codes? No ground surveys, no traffic surveys. Why did you give such an approval? Can Railway Board abnegate that responsibility? Can Railway Board say that, okay, no, I will not see this? I mean, state government does not have the competence to handle a project like this. If state government has sent a feasibility report prepared by KRDCL, which does not contain any ground surveys, then I would not put all the blame on state government, because state government, the officers who are in state government, the politicians or the transports, they don't know anything about railway lines. They have never handled construction of even a small siding. So what to talk of India's first semi-high speed line? So here the responsibility rests with Railway Board. Why they did not exercise necessary control, that today the whole project is in a mess. Railway Board wants to sort of put all responsibility on state government, and people of the state, like we are having this because so many people are concerned. So many people are concerned. What will be the effect of this line on the flood situation in the state? What is the point of building a line which will cost 1 lakh crore of rupees? So the people are also agitated, and people are also finding that earlier you promised that it will be an elevated corridor, there will be very less requirement of land, and there will be very less displacement of people. And now we find that 90% of the line is on ground, and you are going to take our land. And we all know that land in Kerala, I mean land which is habitable, high ground, is very less. There is tremendous pressure on land in Kerala for people to make their houses, buildings, and also for agriculture, for plantation and other things. So, I mean, I've been very straightforward in this thing, because I know from my first-hand knowledge of experience with having dealt with this project in the crucial first 4 months I have dealt with this project, and I know how all the problems originated. All the problems originated because you suddenly took a U-turn and you change everything. Instead of making the line on broad gauge, you went for standard gauge. Instead of doing proper planning for real estate development, you just did it in a most arbitrary manner. So this is very unfortunate. And I hope that with people getting aware of all these things, people and particularly the political leadership, and I think the media also has a very important role to play here. So you see, I'm not. Let me clarify. I'm not a political person at all. I don't have any ideologies, or I don't have any. I am only talking as an engineer. My main concern is that this will become a bad precedence for the whole country. In a huge organization like railway, precedence is more important than rules. People forget rules. Many people don't even read codes and manuals. This is how these people send proposal without any ground surveys. So it is precedence which is important. If this project goes through, I can guarantee you that there will be 10 other projects like this from different state governments, all asking for semi-high speed line on standard gauge. And all those proposals will have same features, real estate development, loan from these multilateral agencies, standard gauge. So all this arbitrariness will spread. Arbitrariness, unprofessionalism, irresponsibility will spread all over the country. So that is why I am also very much concerned, because of my my direct involvement. I also feel my moral responsibility that I should tell all the things. I should highlight, because normally people don't see how many people would read a 1,000-page report, feasibility report. So I am telling you all these things. That this has happened. This is you go and check your report. This has happened, and you please take corrective actions. And it is really heartening that yes, now media is also, now there is opposition. People are coming out on the streets even, and leaders are speaking in the state assembly, and media is also giving attention. So I hope that something good will come out of it. Okay, you make it on standard gauge, you go for real estate development, you do anything, but do it in a proper manner. Not in the manner that you have done it, Logically, it should be on broad gauge. Real estate development should not be a main consideration. It should be a secondary consideration. The main consideration should be that your station should be in the city center to get high ridership and reduce cost of construction. That is the most important thing. So I think I have covered all the points, and I'll be happy if you have any questions. I would like to answer those questions. And of course, I would like to hear other speakers also. Thank you.